So good morning, everyone. Even though it's noon, it still feels like a morning after yesterday, if you know what I mean. I'm still disappointed in everyone not finishing the beers, but we'll talk about that later at the Game Roast at 5 p.m. But today, I really wanted to spend some time talking about the insane amounts of work that goes into bringing games to consoles and mobile when you're, primarily a PC, Steam gaming company or startup out there. And that's why I brought Artem here, who's our head of publishing, to kind of like question him on what the hell he does. So in a way, it's your performance review, if we think about it.
Oh, wow, yeah. I'm so ready.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, I think it's called a 360 review or something. We're really good at HR at the company.
Will I also provide a feedback? It's 360.
Shh.
Now we're talking. Okay.
So I think what could make sense is to just copy what Rami did and ask what people do here. So do we have any indie developers in the audience? Perfect. Do we have any publishers in the audience? Okay, you guys can step out. No, that's okay. Do we have any AA or AAA companies in the audience? And that means like when you're over 20-ish people. Okay. Does anyone work on mobile? All right, so we actually have a quite mixed crowd here, which I think is going to be good. So I think before we start your performance review, it makes sense to talk a little bit about the way that we think about publishing in general, because it used to be that 20 years ago, publishers would be kind of like the gatekeepers. Like you needed one in order to get distribution, in order to get retail space, in order to get on Steam, you needed to have a publisher. Today, you no longer need that. So the publishing business model, for a while, I'd say about 7 years ago, was what I call the Groupon business model, which means that anyone could replicate it. You just need a little bit of money, a little bit of being able to speak English, and that's it, you were a publisher. We had to evolve from that situation and provide different value. That's why the current publishing team at tinyBuild is, well, depending on how you count, like how many people do you have now?
About 50, yeah.
Yeah, so 50 people doing just publishing. In total, we're about 400 between studios, QA, etc. And I think what could make sense is to conceptualize like why, like if you're an indie developer, why on earth would you want to go through the console certification process instead of just launching on Steam? Maybe we start with that?
So basically, why do you need console versions at all? So
yeah. Well, or why? I mean, what we're trying to prove here is that it's worth to publish your game on PC and consoles and also maybe mobile, which we have been doing for the past couple of years. Why on earth would we do that?
Yeah, that's a great topic, and I would say that in 2023, you need like a really specific reason not to do that, because first of all, it's basically expected from everyone, from your audience, from players, that the game is available on their platforms. They don't care about your reasons that you're not doing that. If they see the game and they want to play it, it must be available on their platform. That's expected. The most important one for me, though, is marketing costs. So when you're spending money on promoting your game, on marketing, or like anything, basically every dollar you spend on multi-platform game is much more effective than that dollar that you spent on game on really specific platform. Imagine how costly it would be to promote the game on Nintendo DS in 2023, for example. You have like a pretty niche audience, right? So for Steam, for consoles, as I said, it's expected. But it's not only reasons here. Basically, if you are talking about sim launches, simultaneous release, which like extremely difficult, it requires like a lot of energy, a lot of time. So why wouldn't you, for example, release game on Steam, wait for like a year or two, and then release it on consoles? That's much easier, right? But you basically closing a lot of opportunities from consoles, from press, from influence, because That's maybe a hard pill to swallow, but no one cares about your console launch like a year later, even if it was like extremely hard for you. Because in the current situation, current media, in current gaming industry, there's so much stuff to enjoy, I would say. So yeah, I mean, for you, it's a big deal that your game now finally available on Switch. But for players, it's some outdated game now also on some another platform. So it's not a big deal. And same for platforms. Platforms really looking forward for new games, and they don't really care about games that already been sold for a while. And you basically competing for really limited amount of marketing slots. When you're talking with Nintendo, when you talking with Microsoft, Sony, basically they have like, I don't know, 7 great marketing slots per week, right? So you're competing with all other games here. And if you don't have this unique quality of being game that haven't been anywhere before, you basically losing this competition. So, I mean, that's like general ones, but there is more. So that's why Steam launches, it's hard. It's like requires a lot of extra work, but it's always worth it. I can think about like specific reasons not to do that. For example, you have like extremely like game like for Steam only. Like you created perfect clone of Dwarf Fortress. So something that would be really hard to sell on PlayStation, but Steam audience would probably love it. So yeah, go for it. Another possible option is if you have like perfect fit for early access game. So yeah, go for it. Release it in early access, work with audience, update the game, and there's like life hack here. So when I said that consoles and platforms don't really care about like games that was released before, it's not really applied to early access titles, because for early access titles, it's fine. So releasing game in early access, being there for several years, and then releasing huge, big, shiny 1.0 everywhere at once, it works. Everyone likes that. And yeah, I mean, as soon as your game is successful, obviously, during early access. So yeah.
Well, we've done a few early access games, right? Like our first published and co-developed game, Speedrunners, was in early access for like, God, like 7 years or something. And I think the important point here is that when you talk about Steam, right, the reason no one cares about your secondary launch when you release your game on console is because it's not on the front page of Steam at that point, right? You know, you may have an update that you do. You have like some tools like the visibility rounds for updates. But unless it's a really talk-worthy about update that gets all of the influencers screaming, all of the press writes about it, and it released on consoles, then probably no one's going to care. But with early access, what many people forget, and this is why I highly recommend everyone reads Steam documentation like a Bible and memorizes all of it, is because you get a lot of visibility on the Steam front page when you have your 1.0 launch. Like, for example, the new and trending list, it doesn't apply to early access anymore. You get there when you release to 1.0. So early access is like the caveat here, I guess. And some of the things that we've done, like we just recently launched 2 games from early access on PC only to cross-platform sim on 1.0, right?
And we will do more, yeah, because it works. I mean, if you as developer ready for early access, because I mean, it's like completely different story, completely different topic, and if the game works for early access, if the team is ready for that, so yeah, I mean, this works. We like that for system-based games, for games that could like evolve and like be better and better during early access. Yeah, it works. Yeah.
All right. Well, shall we move to like? You said that there is a lot of work involved. What kind of work is there to do a sim launch?
Basically, let's like briefly talk about porting, right? So what do you need for porting game? What will be required from you?
Maybe let's ask the audience. Who has ported games before to consoles?
Oh, right.
How fun was it?
Yeah. Obviously, as you can see, it's a lot of fun here. So basically, what you need, first of all, if you have like game that almost ready to be released on Steam, and you decided like a week before the release, maybe we should do consoles. Yeah, why not?
But it's easy. You just press deploy to PS5?
Yes, this is how it works usually, but sometimes there are more. So first of all, it's obviously UI and controls. So if you ever tried to remake controls that was originally created for PC, and then, oh my God, we don't have a lot of buttons on gamepad. What should we do? So yeah, it's a pain. And I would say that now any game must have these like gamepad controls in mind from like day one, from design. Even if you're not going to do consoles now, if you're not thinking about that, usually it's just beneficial for user experience, keeping in mind this limitation of gamepad controls.
It's also Steam Deck, right?
Yes, exactly. So Steam Deck right now is like just basically another reason to do that. And many current like design decisions, how games working, how we are like interacting with them, it's all dictated by console-specific controls, and it's great. If you played recently like 20 years old game, you probably noticed how horrible was control schemes there and interfaces. So that's a huge one, and this is something that must be considered early. Second one is obviously platform-specific requirements. And it's not only about user experience, how user interacting with the game, because people really care about like user experience on consoles. You know this like PC gaming moment when for launching the game you spending like 15 minutes like adjusting stuff or like updating drivers or something on consoles, like nothing like that. That's great. And it requires a lot of work. But also for consoles, for example, not all renders work on consoles. Not all your tools applies. If you are working on multiplayer game, oh my God, please consider possibility on porting on consoles earlier. So there's a lot of stuff to discover, and this is something that you need to think about a lot. And the third one, huge one, can you help me? What's the last one for porting? What we need to think about and care about? Absolutely, but also optimization, because on PC we have plenty of resources that we can spend on like anything, and compared to Switch, that's like completely different story. And it is also something that would be pretty hard to do during like the last hour week of production. This is something that must be considered before. So as soon as you like perform all of that, life would be much easier with porting. And yeah, basically that's the main problems and the three things that you need to resolve before like being released on consoles.
Well, you know, we're going to segue from our highly rehearsed presentation that I've been looking at. This is actually a really interesting ideological conflict that I see. Because quite often game developers will, and designers, creative people will have ideas, right, that are really easy to prototype, really fast in Unity or Unreal. You know, you use blueprints in Unreal and you figure out what works, and people really love that. And then when you get to the porting stage, quite often you hear from the porting team like, oh my God, who wrote this, right? It's like kind of like when you go to a new dentist and they go, oh my God, who did this before, right? No one ever likes someone else's code, but since we're so used to deploying to PC and iterating so fast on very basic code, you know, writing stuff and just making it work, and we have so much buffer on the GPU, on the CPU, on the RAM side, we don't think about that. And it's a really interesting conflict, in my opinion, because you have to kind of contradict the game design, and like, how do you go about that? Because I know you guys have had a lot of situations where we go, hey, feature freeze, like 4 months before launch. Can't do that, right? And then if the whole development process, 18 months, for example, that's a huge chunk of time.
That's something that we like resolving and trying to find the best solution, like case by case. Each game is unique, each development is unique. But what helps a lot when we think like, when should you start working with like your porting team, or when you start thinking about, or when you start consulting with someone who knows more about like porting stuff. So I would say for single player games, this is something that you can start as soon as you have beta versions, so something playable, all the features here. It's not polished, it's not finished, but you already can think about, okay, but how this will work on consoles. This is like great scenario. You can do that like after game is finished, but that would be like extra 4 months or something, which like not working. So how we are doing that for single player games, it's feature freeze, porting team starting working on the game, and PC team, original team, continuing implementing features, but checking with porting team. Is it okay to do that? Is it okay to? So basically, it's constant dialogue and constant like checking. If you implement a feature in this manner, will this break everything or we good? So as soon as this communication is clear, it's not a big deal. So basically, at some point, original team has like finalized game, and console team has like beta that could be easily patched to the final game. So in this case, you are not actually losing time, you're working together to deliver. If you're talking about multiplayer games, so I would say that ideal scenario is just like start porting, start working together from like day one, I would say, just because for all your multiplayer solutions, for everything, you need to make sure that it will also work on all platforms that you want, because all platforms are different. Something that's good for Xbox will not work on Switch. So yeah, just like huge, really interesting task. So I'm just, want to let you know that porting multiplayer is just like completely different beast, yeah.
Yeah, we have like one project that because of we want crossplay, it's shifted by like a year from its original launch date.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, crossplay is also like interesting thing, because from the technical standpoint, it's not a huge it's not a big deal. It's not a huge thing, because if you already did like multiplayer on consoles, doing crossplay is like, I would say, easy. Right?
From a technical standpoint, right?
Yes,
where is the bottleneck?
And also from a manager's perspective. But so, since I'm not programmer, so for me, easy. but first of all, platforms and certification process like becoming much harder as soon as other platforms are involved, because is there like clear indication that there are other platforms? What kind of data you share with other platforms? So it's like a lot of interesting stuff that you need to consider. And the second one, which is like really interesting, you have to, since you have crossplay, all your platforms must always have the same version of the game, same monetization, same balance, everything. And when you update in the game, it must also not break anything. So it creates basically a really like complicated pipeline, which also while also making in consideration all the certification times. Because, for example, on Xbox, on PlayStation, you have rapid patches for your multiplayer games, like 1 day push updates live. But for Switch, it's like always 2 weeks, like up to 2 weeks. So it creates like really weird specific situations when sometimes crossplay. We also have these cases, right? When we have crossplay, for example, like PC and Xbox or something like that.
So Secret Neighbor is one of our crossplay titles, which I think on Xbox you can play with PlayStation. On PlayStation you can play with Steam. On Steam you can play with iOS. On iOS you can't play with Xbox, but you can play with PlayStation. Something like that.
Yeah. So it's not even like restriction of the platforms, but it's more about our internal processes, how we can actually like deliver versions to not break anything. And another thing that may be like surprising for especially indie developers who used to like publish game on Steam and update it constantly, that you can't do that anymore, because now you have multiplayer and now you have crossplay, and all your crazy idea that was like pushed to life like in a day or two, now it's a whole process for like 2 months. You created PC feature, then you port in it, then you make a certification, and it's not fun anymore for you because you're tired about that. So yeah, it's
I think
problem.
it's worth to caveat that it's a 2-month process when you work with an external porting team, right?
Yeah.
Because most of the time, like when it's a new IP, we do external contract work. We used to have an internal porting studio, and instead of having that be like an internal service, what we learned is that it's actually much better to insert porting into internal studios. So this is what we recommend, and it's a very difficult process, but so far for our team in Lviv, for Holograph, that are working on Secret Neighbor, they're the first that have like the full pipeline internal. Because we've been working on that game for about 3 years, and it took them 3 years to try one porting studio, try a second one, try a third one, and we definitely did not smuggle dev kits into Ukraine in the middle of war, and were able to build that pipeline internally. So for them, like the feature testing and everything, they can actually disable that crossplay between some of the versions, for a little bit, test it on Steam, then re-enable it once they deploy it, and it can take a few weeks, right? It's the hardest part at that point is the actual development. But getting to that pipeline is like the golden key. I feel like that's the difference between indie AAA, indie AA, and AAA. Because in AAA, that's the whole pipeline, right? The whole pipeline is built to deliver to consoles and PC, and often they'll actually port to PC. Like we have friends at Iron Galaxy, a studio that is maybe not as well known as a brand, but they do all of the ports for PlayStation. I'm not sure if that's public information, but whatever. So you actually port to PC from your custom-made game console engine.
I mean, that's like for multiple games, for live ops games, that's the end point when you have the whole porting team inside, because, I mean, otherwise it's much more expensive, much more longer, creates like hustle. But there are some intermediate solutions. For example, how we are working with some of our teams, you start in porting with external team while creating slowly internal team, while sharing experience, expertise, and for example, 1.0 launch you're doing with external team, but the first update already with internal team, small one, and second update bigger with bigger internal team. And at the end of the day, you have like a team that has like really slow learning curve without like putting product on risk. So yeah, that's important, because also there are players who play in the game and paying for this. So yeah, that's important.
Yeah. Well, I think what could be useful is to talk about the process in terms of headcount, right? Because sometimes, like, and with very rare exceptions, we do have studios like one-man studio just pours the whole game, and we're like, this is awesome. But it's very rare.
But it happens, yeah.
Yeah, and those people are like quite insanely good at what they do. But in a normal situation, can you talk about like the people that we have internal that do a lot of work? And what comes to mind is the anecdote of our release management position, which has flown from like I've done it for a while, then Luke has done it, then I think Kuzmin has done it for a while, and everyone thinks like, oh, release management is super easy. What's wrong? You just you enter an admin. And like Kuzmin right here is saying, like, I don't want to do it again. But it's a full-time job, right? Can you talk about the structure of the team that is required to facilitate this?
I mean, as a company who just recently had only one person for managing that, so yeah. Release manager is a person with like low life expectancy from stress, probably. Yeah, so how it's working for us, we have internal porting producers, we have internal release managers, and they are people who connecting development studios on PC and porting studios on consoles, because again, there are people who talking on completely different languages, there are people who have like different goals in mind, and to basically align the process, there are a lot of work. But right now, for our 15 releases per year, and all of them has some or all console versions, some of them have mobile versions. We have like for all this amount of work, 2 porting producers and 2 release managers.
But that's alongside the normal producers. That
yeah,
have,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
because,
like,
I mean, it was something that was previously done by normal. Yeah, executive producers, regional producers as well, but it's just completely different line of work, and it's not really like effective distribution of resources of like your time, because when you can work on your new IP or new installment in the existing IP, it's much more effective than continue working on like building these processes, pipelines, because it's like really time-consuming process. It is, yeah. And also, I mean, there's so much the huge cost of mistake here when we're talking about consoles, because on Steam you did something wrong, said, "Oh shit, release patch,
Hotfix.
yeah, hotfix." Or okay, forget about that previous version, live debug. So yeah, it's pretty easy as soon as any platform involved, especially like Nintendo. So any mistake could just like ruin the experience for players for the last like few days at least. So or for example, on Steam, you can always like adjust your dates, release dates, or anything. But if you are missing your date that was previously discussed with Microsoft or Sony, you will not get any promotion. You will not get like anything, which is kind of disappointing. So yeah, it's really important.
Yeah. I was actually remembering with a colleague yesterday about a launch we had like close to a decade ago, and we somehow decided to delay the game, and the slot then ended up on the same launch as an Uncharted game on Sony. We're like, oh, but then last minute, Sony decided to delay Uncharted, so we had the main banner on PlayStation. But don't count on that, that's like 1 in a million.
I mean, that was like the whole 2022. So many postponed, delayed release. So yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so if you think about like what are the other more common mistakes that developers may make, or some of the mistakes that we've made, because quite frankly, like I still don't understand what you guys do. I just look at the budgets and go, oh, QA went up by 7 times since we started cross-platform publishing.
Yeah, Alex, I was much more comfortable talking about some developers who doing mistakes. No, it's our mistake. You're right. So
yeah, so
let's talk about them.
review.
Yes. I believe that the biggest one and huge one is not paying enough attention for planning, because again, as soon as any platforms involved, all planning must be, first of all, strict, and second, extremely pessimistic. So you cannot have any like chances. You cannot think, let's think positive, and maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to make it. You know, like we'll do this in 3 months.
Will. Yeah, a miracle happens. So yeah, maybe. So for any console release, it's just like horrible consequences of that. And from like my perspective as a manager, if for example we have like shaky chances to release in like September, October, I would say let's go for February, just to make sure, because in this case you'll be fully prepared, your marketing capability will be tailored, you'll have more time for assets. And I mean, why rush things then? So I mean, it would be much more
budgets.
Sorry?
Money.
Oh my God, yeah, I'm not thinking about it. I mean, and at the end of the day, with more prepared release, better assets, and with more support from platforms, there's money. So it's like just more effective for you. Obviously, if you're like counting like every extra expenses, that may be harsh, but from our perspective, it's worth it. It's worth it to prepare release like properly. So as I said, planning like not only pessimistic, with like negative approach, which helpful a lot. Second one is thinking that we already released game on Steam in early access, and we had like so many players, and no one's seen any problems. I think we're ready for consoles. So yeah, that's completely wrong. So consoles work differently. Certification process is like also different beast. So as early as possible, you just need to get all the documentations, get dev kits, spend some time, take your time on figuring out how it works, and also make sure that you have enough time for QA. Use external QA even if expensive. Use internal QA if you can afford it or you have these resources. But it will also save you a lot of time, a lot of like hustle with certification, and at the end of the day, it will worth it. So, yeah. What else? What else mistakes? I don't know. Delivering not optimized experience for console players again. So. Controls, it's something that's extremely important, and if your programmers are not, or designers are not console players and thinking that PC master race, keyboard and mouse forever. So yeah, maybe you should like do extra playtest to make sure that everything works as intended. Because if you like playing on consoles, you know that important thing about console that you don't really need any tutorials. You don't really need any like I don't know learning stuff. It's intuitive, highly intuitive, and that's why. Yeah, it's important.
Actually, I was working on a project a few weeks ago with a team that is a PC master race team, right? And our current game is on PC. It's in early access, and we're like, ew, controller. So I got all of them onto a Discord call, and we got to playing a similar game on consoles, and it was extremely painful. It was, I think it was the most painful 4 hours for those guys ever. But now they know that, hey, you know, like the main button, A or X, whatever it is, like the thumb button, always brings you forward in the menu. The B button, the circle button, always brings you back in the menu. And just those basic things, they do help a lot. Because most of your players are likely to be on consoles and mobile, oddly enough. On mobile, it's a whole different beast, which I think requires different conversations. So just for context, we treat mobile as essentially marketing. So when we port on mobile, what we try to do is get the app for free and just put a paywall somewhere in the middle. You know, it will make its money back on the port.
Like the laziest way possible.
Hey, we've been talking about this for like 4 years, and you're like, Alex, let's do proper free-to-play. We try proper free-to-play. It doesn't work. We revert back to the paywall. It makes its money back. But what it does is when you have the cumulative marketing effect of launching your game everywhere, people will search for it on mobile. And then if the app is free, they will give it a try, and then they might pay for it, or they will actually migrate to PC or console. We've seen this with several titles now, and it just works if you have the resources.
I mean, people watching your trailers on mobile, people like visiting your site on mobile. So as soon as all the links leading to Steam, I would say people not clicking it. They say, yeah, maybe I will search it later. So yeah, as soon as it's mobile friendly, all the traffic would be much more effective. And at the end of the day, you will have your console purchases and Steam purchases, but this like onboarding process, this process when players can actually like touch the game or like, I don't know, see how it looks, how it plays. So speaking of that, if you will check any of tinyBuild websites right now, you can see that it's extremely simple. It's like right now, it's just one pager with like 3 buttons, and that's it. So previously we had like really cool, crazy with animations, really artistic sites. You open it on your like 34-inch monitor, and it looks so beautiful, and you scroll and things changing, and this shit not working. Like, I mean,
complete waste of money.
Yeah. Waste of money. People hate it. People don't know how to do it because they open it on mobile. It's like it's horrible. So as soon as it's like one pager with like huge buttons, basically like an app. So yeah, it just works, and we saw like huge like jump in conversion rates, and it's just much more effective.
I think a very practical example here is when you publish your game on Google Play, and if you get featured, the trailer that you put in there, it's a YouTube link. So then, you know, like how much money would you need to get to advertise your trailer for like, 5 million views? No, you just make a mobile version of your game, put on Google Play, and that boosts your trailer views. And then it goes viral because it's an embed view, right, that has a high click-through rate. So your trailer actually catches a lot for getting traction on YouTube.
Yeah, this is how we like treating mobile market, and obviously mobile like publishing game on mobile or like getting money from mobile is like huge topic. But as soon as you have PC version, console version, it's always worth it.
So you have a Switch version, I mean, really, you have your mobile version in a way, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's much easier right now to actually get great performance on mobile than on Switch. So I mean.
Switch is based. Let's not tell Nintendo that.
Yeah. No. It's perfect 2015 tablet inside. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So I think what's important is also to share maybe some stats that we have, because we said that it's almost always worth it to port to consoles. And I did just a little bit of digging. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like amongst, let's say, the last 10 cross-platform releases, for the ones that are on the 4 platforms, so Steam, PlayStation, 4 and 5 doesn't matter, Xbox doesn't matter, and Switch, it seems pretty equally spread, right? With a few exceptions.
I mean, I'm not going to share any numbers. So you mean Steam and consoles, or across all
each individual one? So each one of them is pretty comparable. Like if you look at the pie charts.
Yeah. And that's interesting. Obviously, I mean, it's also because we are picking games like that, right? So we always thinking, is it going to work on consoles or not? So it's like in our pitches pipeline, we are like considering that. But yeah, right. Sometimes you have games that, for example, like better fit for PlayStation audience, which like happens if you have like third-person action game, or on Switch. So yeah, but basically, right now, if you're not for us at least, okay, if you're not doing ports and doing only Steam, so it's like 30% like or something like that.
Yeah. So the majority of our revenue, at least right now, is coming not from Steam, right? And that I think is an interesting position to be in, but it took so much work to get here. So do we have anything else to cover, or shall we open up to questions or crack some stupid jokes?
I just want to like last bit of like sharing information how much time it take for us usually. So when we are creating estimations for porting, for like all the stuff, so it's for porting on consoles, including Switch, it's usually like 3 to 4 months total. Again, you can start like before end of the development or like right at the end of the development, doesn't matter. For single player games, and for multiplayer, it's plus like at least 3 months. So this is like just things blocks that you need to consider, but this is how it works for now. So yeah, that's it. That's the last piece of knowledge that I have, completely empty.
Yeah, console development is fun, especially considering that people assume that it's easy.
I mean, it's easier than it looks, but
Is it?
I mean, yeah, because people not doing that. They releasing games on Steam and not even touching consoles. But again, in our cases, in all the cases that we saw, it's always worth it. So if you can, like spend this extra money, or if you have publisher that can provide this expertise, these resources, their knowledge, and most importantly, this like marketing coverage that would be effective. So yeah, go for it. There's no reason not to do that.
All right, well, maybe let's hypothesize if you don't have a publisher and you don't want a publisher, how would you do it? So like you're a Steam development company, let's say like a few people, but you have the money.
You have the money.
Yeah. Well, let's just assume that you have the resources to do it. What would you recommend? Like build out an internal team, or go to a porting house?
Yeah, if you indie developer, indie studio, first consider doing that internally, because I mean, if it's not a huge multiplayer game, probably like one extra engineer would be enough. If you know how to get dev kits, if you know how to like get accounts, if you're like not in, I don't know, Russia, for example. So yeah, it's possible, and consider that and spend some time on researches. If it's not possible, or you're not ready to like spend resources or hire person, maybe consider like some extra options, like when someone porting the game, and then you have like revenue share or something. So if you're for some reason not ready to work as publisher in standard way, so there are options, but I mean, yeah, there are plenty of them.
Right. Well, do we have a few minutes for questions? All right. Perfect.
Do you have any questions, guys?
I think we covered pretty much everything here.
Okay.
I also saw a
So
hand
first
in the
here,
back.
then in the back.
Hello, thank you for the talk. And what do you, how do you count a sim launch? If I launch a game on mobile,
yeah, like that.
if I launch a game on mobile and I launch it in 1 month on Steam, does it count as a sim launch? Because you said it's 1 or 2 years apart, the launch, in terms of visibility.
Well, if you're considering launching on mobile and then on Steam,
Yeah.
don't do that. Do it the other way around if you want to.
Okay.
Because if a game launches on mobile first and then comes to Steam, you're going to get so much hate comments. It doesn't matter that the game is like built for Steam or whatever. Just flip it. But ideally, just launch it like on the same day or the same week on both.
Same week.
Yeah. Don't do a month later because your marketing, your buzz is going to die down.
Yep.
That's the whole point of like combining these launches. And just make sure to, well, I mean, I guess mobile has similar mechanics now where you can get a pre-purchase page up, right, so that you enroll on that.
Yes.
Think of Steam in the same way. Don't just like publish a page on Steam a day before launch. Publish it way before, see how the Steam algorithm picks it up, how many wishlists you get, etc.
And when we are talking about sim launches,
Okay, thank you.
When we're talking about sim launches, for us, it's the same day. Just because like your release is one of the most important marketing bit. Sometimes you have like half of the whole traffic since the announcement like on release day, and this is your like time to shine, and this is your time to be in like on all platforms possible. So if you're not doing that even like week later, there are already other games that like launching. So you're just basically losing traffic.
Okay, I think we had one question in the back.
Hello, thank you for the talk. So my question will be not exactly about publishing, but about marketing, which is the part of publishing, I guess.
Huge can of worms.
Yeah. So if we try to imagine the user acquisition pie chart of the mobile game, we definitely will see a viral traffic with all these live ops cards and the featuring. We may see the IP integration in there. And I think the biggest part will be like paid traffic. And if we will talk about consoles, how this user acquisition pie chart will look like, and what is the main source of the users on the console? Thank you.
Well, I mean, it's actually one of the reasons why you want to launch on PC and consoles, right? Because on consoles, you have no data, as far as I know, right?
Yeah, it's pretty limited. But what we know about console, that the most effective like way it's being featured by platforms. Because I mean, people on consoles playing on what like consoles offering them. If you have like main page, perfect. If you have trailer on like Xbox channel, PlayStation channel, perfect. If you get approval for PlayStation blog, perfect. Because I mean, the whole ecosystem, the whole like idea behind consoles is that you don't spend extra like effort on like anything. You just want to start the console and play. That's it. You are not looking for games. You are not like trying. You don't need to be a like geek, right? So you just like launching it and playing something new and shiny and cool. So that's why it's important when we talked about like why sim launches is important, because platforms like that, and platforms are your like best friend here. And I mean, obviously, second one is streamers. And you know what? Surprise! Streamers also like exclusive content and new games. So yeah, basically, when we're talking about consoles, it's like platform, Sony, PlayStation, Nintendo, and streamers. Yeah, that would be great.
And like traditional marketing, in terms of user acquisition and the way it's done in mobile, and all of the tracking involved there, even after iOS cut all of the tracking features, it's still a different ball game. And treating. I see a lot of mobile companies stumble when they go to console and premium PC because they try to apply the same principles, right? And the same principles don't really apply because the more core gamers, they need to be treated with more respect. And if you treat them like some mobile companies do, like traffic acquisition, right? They're not traffic; they're your fans, and that's, I think, the core difference. And that's why I dabbled in mobile games for a couple of years of my career. Never again. Now we treat mobile as marketing. That's why I want to contextualize that. All right, do we have time for more questions?
Yeah, sure.
You guys are going to skip lunch. We can be here all day.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the talk. And my question is about the porting time expectations. You mentioned it takes 3 to 4 months for a single-player game. Am I right that that it assumes the game is made with Unity or Unreal engine, that it's not done by some in-house engine?
I just recently discovered that Godot right now have full support for platform porting, which was great. But yeah, we are talking about Unity or Unreal, yeah, standard cases.
Do you have any experience of such estimations for games made with custom in-house engines?
No, unfortunately, and I believe it's like really like case-by-case scenario.
There were a couple of cases before you joined us where we gave up. So
Okay.
that timeline is still pending. One was in CryEngine and the other one was a custom engine, and yeah, we just gave up at that point. But to be fair, we didn't have the resources we have now.
I mean, also, we talked briefly about certification process, and there may be some pretty nasty surprises that, for example, your plugins that you are using because it's essential, they're not compatible for the platform that you want to launch. And just the process of creating the workaround, process of creating like new tools, new plugins can take like much more time, and it's just unpredictable. And also, before the certification process, there is no way for actually like doing that in advance. It must be final game, right? So it's already when you have expected release date, when you have like marketing campaign, and then you figure out, okay, we need 6 more months. So yeah, that's not great. So that's why we are not messing with other engines right now. We're trying not to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. We have time for questions.
Yeah, I saw one hand over here, right?
Hi. So my question is more related to the platforms. So I wanted to ask you, what's your like general approach towards choosing the platform for porting? Like, I mean, I expect it to be like very case specific, but still maybe there's like a general idea of how you choose to, I don't know, to port to PS4 instead of PS5 or vice versa. It's you know, always connected to resources that you have in the team and like the timeline that you have. But I mean, what's the general idea for your team?
It's money. So basically,
Yeah.
the end result of your like the whole activities is like selling the game and getting to the audience. For example, just recently, like 4 days ago, PSVR 2 was released, right? And it's a pretty great, shiny thing. And if you're creating VR game, maybe it must be PSVR 2 only. But also, at the moment, I believe they sell like, I don't know, dozens, thousands copies, like devices or something. And also you have at the same time 5 million units for PSVR 1. And maybe it worth it to like slightly like adjust your expectations and also deliver like 2 versions of the game. Same with platforms. So why God of War Ragnarok, which is like system seller and basically next gen and PS5 game, why the hell is available on PS4? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Why do we still have this like weird sequences when Kratos crawling from some stuff to load in the next area? Because on PS5 you don't need it, right? But you still have like so many
shots fired.
I mean, we all just like a family here. So yeah, we'll keep.
Yeah,
oh my
it's
God,
not
this
being
camera!
recorded.
Oh
Oh,
my
shit.
God! So I mean, yeah, it's basically install base and what kind of audience you want, and yeah, that's the only reasons for like selecting platforms. And I mean, obviously, if you have game that like the whole like revolves about the idea of being like high tech with like high like graphics, perfect like technical top-notch stuff. So maybe a porting on mobile or even on Switch is like just not the way to go, right? So there may be some limits, but we are usually just looking to money.
I had first question right there.
We also have on the back, I believe, also have some questions.
Okay, then we'll go to the back.
We're really making the MC work here.
Thanks for the talk. So my question is, you said that you use mobile platform as promotion for your main platform, and does it mean that you not use marketing on mobile games, or it's better to use it?
Can you define marketing for mobile games? What do you mean, like acquiring users to the mobile games?
No, I mean spend some money to maybe advertisement or bring users to your game.
Yeah, so this is actually quite interesting. So what we do is the opposite, right? So it's kind of like we make the games popular on PC and consoles, right? Which then makes a lot of people who see those brands, you know, like their favorite YouTuber play it, search for it on mobile, which then brings them on mobile to the top charts, to a lot of install base, and then makes those brands more popular on mobile, therefore creating a feedback loop, right? So we have dabbled in traditional user acquisition, like very briefly, but like, so I think the original Hello Neighbor app has over 70 million downloads total. Most of that is on mobile, right? Think about that, 70 million without user acquisition. And for games like Toy Reliable Delivery Service, which is also free on mobile, for Despot's game that's also free on mobile, we have millions and millions of downloads without the traditional game. I don't want to be playing in a sandbox where everyone else is playing the same game. I'm going to be the odd kid that stands in the corner and dabbles with their PlayStation Portable or PlayStation Vita and not play the same game. You know what I mean?
Now the question in the back.
And another person in the back. I see you. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like, it's been a while.
Okay, hello. A little hypothetical question. If we have a situation where we, the publisher, release a game, for example, and due to different reasons, by the time of its release, we do weak marketing. Like, not many people know about our game, not...
you do a what?
Weak marketing.
Weak marketing, okay.
Yes, yes, weak marketing. And not a lot of people know about your game, not a lot of people know about our game. And in your opinion, is there any way how, after its release, we can reanimate,
relaunch or essentially save a failing game.
Yeah. How we can save a failing game by a different marketing approach, or not exactly a marketing, like any approach. Thank you.
Is the game niche or mass market? That was the question.
It's more a niche game, yes.
I think we have a few examples, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect question, because, I mean, is it possible to have a second chance? So, I mean, short answer, yes, but you have to be creative. So what's the best example that you can think of?
I think, let's not name the specific game, but we had a game that launched that didn't do too well on launch, and we were trying to market it as a mass market game without realizing that it had a very specific niche in the, you know, like the super intricate systems-driven niche market. One day I wake up, I open up the Steam back and I go, holy shit, what happened here? And a YouTuber, a very small YouTuber in comparison, right? Not the PewDiePies of the world, posted one video that had like 200K views that converted into tens of thousands of sales. And that was maybe 8-something months after the game launched. So that is like, for niche games, it's actually easier to make that comeback because you can target very specific streamers and YouTubers and influencers to find that. And then the other example is actually, I now realize that I kind of lied about user acquisition when I answered the mobile question, because we had examples when, for very niche titles, we do direct-to-user advertising, right? So think like Reddit ads, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And then we made, like in the first week, like 50,000 sales pre-Steam. Just like I made a really shitty game launcher, like assembled it myself and just sold that game. And we're like, oh, that's 50K sales in a week. And then the game blew up on Steam and on consoles as well. So niche games actually have more second. Now, with mainstream games, yeah, you can't make PewDiePie play your game again. Or I guess PewDiePie is less relevant, but you know what I mean.
And I want to say what would probably not work and the less effective way is if the game like not doing well, just continue updating it, spending time on development, and doing exactly same marketing stuff as they did before. It's not gonna work probably with like 99%. But what can work is to like small creative ways, trying stuff. Maybe it's a perfect game for TikTok. Maybe you need to discover like specific niche and understand if there are huge like YouTubers here. Because I mean, when we think about huge YouTubers, we are thinking about millions, right? But for niche genre, it might be a YouTuber with like 50K viewers, but the conversion rate would be insane just because it's like pure audience without any, I don't know, kids just watching for fun. So yeah, think about different unique approach and think about why your game is great, why it's unique, and why you sign it as a publisher in the first place. So.
Yeah, and like I see so many publishers just doing the same thing over and over again, like posting to a dead subreddit, like hoping that someone sees, and then the game is not saying. You just continue doing it because some community manager is not like is maybe too afraid to stop doing stuff that doesn't work. The only limited resource you have is your time, and then spend time on things that that might work, right? Don't spend time on things that don't work, and then don't say no to weird ideas when you're in that situation.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I want to.
Yes, the person has been holding his hand for a while. It better be a good question now.
And after that, one last question from the front.
Okay, so you've spoken about making mobile versions of your game as a marketing tool. So what do you think would happen if you like release all everywhere at once, like mobile, PC, Steam, consoles? Because there's this perceived notion from a lot of players that if you bring a mobile game to the PC space, then it's shit because it's a mobile game, and the mobile games doesn't belong on PCs. So a lot of developers basically, even if they can easily port their games to mobile, they're doing PC version, they decide to wait with the mobile version to say that it's PC game ported to the mobile space. So what would you think with the marketing on mobile if you release it everywhere?
Great question. Yeah. So just I will start and then you can continue. So what helps us? Because that's a great question. And what helps us that we are not like treating the game as mobile launch. We are treating it like full PC console launch, and then it's also available on mobile. So in this case, there are like no negative sentiment from users. There are no like I don't know, complaints about that, because again, right now it's not that big of a deal as it was like 5 years ago when there was like now free-to-play on mobile, and now there are Steam version of free-to-play games on mobile, and they're huge hate. Obviously, if you launched, as Alex said, if you launch the game on mobile first, that would be a problem. If you launch it at the same time, right now, honestly, no one cares as soon as the game is good. So, I mean, we have Dead Cells on mobile, and it's exactly the same game. Oh, by the way, if you will have game on mobile And on Steam, that would be paid version. And on mobile, you will have all the tricky monetization with all the, I don't know, consumables and every stuff. That may be not a good idea. So yeah, that's why we are doing like full price or like free with like simple unlock, just to show it's honest, it's the same price or like appropriate price as on Steam. So yeah, no tricks here. Anything else about that or?
No, you got. I mean, I'm just remembering how for one of our games, when we launched an Xbox version, we actually cut out a bunch of content from it, and so the base $15 game had like less content than the Steam version, and then on Xbox, a bunch of other content was split into like 5 DLCs. So the MSRP on Steam was $15, and the MSRP for the deluxe edition on Xbox was like $35. And I felt bad about it, but then like no one complained. If we do it the other way around, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, also it's because again, console players, they really want to just play this game and not.
They don't want to hate
problems.
on Twitter. Well, I mean, some of them do, but they just want to play the game.
Yeah.
Right. Let's do the final question, maybe, or 2 final questions. We're going to be here all day.
Okay, first here, and then there, and then
Yes,
we're going to
and
lunch.
wrap it up.
And then we can also chat outside, guys, if you guys want to chat more.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. And my question is about really going through the thought process before launching, because you described that is very important. Correct me if I'm wrong, actually, if I catched it in the wrong angle. But the first day is a very important day of the launch, right? So if we miss that opportunity, it's very difficult to go back to it. And also the porting stuff, it's better to have it in mind first, right? To think about it prior to actually launching. Have those things actually saved you in case of estimations, for example, for porting, and also if it comes to marketing the game prior to launching it also? Does this thinking through actually, do you have the visible data for you that it saves you?
So, if I understand the question correctly, oh,
Right.
by the way, can you provide me with a short version of question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question would be, if this going through the things prior to causing the fire and then putting the fire down really benefits you in the is it really visible?
Mental health, is putting out a fire better than preparing so the fire doesn't start?
Oh my God, yes. So basically, that was one of the reasons why we now have like dedicated porting producers, because they are people who, they care about games, but we are specifically asking in them, don't care about games, don't care about developers, don't care about deadlines. And they are like bad guys in the team who saying, when we, as like people who like schedule and stuff and think about release, saying, oh my God, for this game, September 1st would be perfect date. So please, guys, let's do it September 1st. And this guy is saying, no, we're not going to do that. So you have the whole company rooting for September 1 release, and these porting producers saying, it's not going to happen, you can do whatever you want, but no, it's not going to happen. And this is actually creates so perfect and smooth releases in future, because, crunches are not working. It's never positive. It's always like the last case, like break the glass, there's a crunch, it's not going to help, but you will feel like you're doing something at least, and it's already great. So yeah, it's not working, it's negative, and as soon as you like plan everything in advance, yeah, it saves like a lot of time and energy. So there is a huge temptation always, maybe because we are like trying to do everything perfect, maybe because we are trying to find base case scenarios or trying to like find perfect days. There's always temptation to have like some chances for a miracle or believing in best, and it will ruin a lot of stuff. Yeah.
The way to think about it is over prepare and then oh shit, we can take a holiday for a week
Yeah,
before launch.
yeah. So it's never a bad idea, and it's everyone's grateful when it happens. So yeah, that's good.
Thank you very much.
Right, now, actual last question. Lyrica already
Last
came in.
question.
She's screaming in the back.
Yay. It must be good.
I hope it's good, but it's up to you to decide. Thank you for your expertise. I have a question. Let's imagine my game is not God of War, and it's like small niche puzzle platformer, which is going to have like some sort of success, maybe on Steam, maybe I don't know, several thousands of sold copies. Is it worth porting it to PlayStation if I don't have marketing, but somehow I can afford the dev kit and to release it there? And what's the organic flow, organic traffic on PlayStation if, for instance, there's a sale and I don't know, my game is number 500 in the sale top, best sale. How it works there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So from my perspective, if you're not really sure in the success of your game on Steam, there is no reasons to hope for good performance on PlayStation. So players are completely different, platforms are completely different, but we are people, all people, and we are like behaving in the same manner. If people are not attracted, not clicking, not like wishlisting game on Steam, they would probably also like not caring about that on consoles. So if you think about porting as an extra chance for game to recoup, to get more money, it may be a little bit costly, I would say. So from my perspective, it's better to make sure that you're doing everything right for PC. If you're not sure, releasing it on PC, because again, Steam launch is complicated stuff and it's like maybe expensive. If you're launching platforms later, it's still possible to bring attention as soon as the game is good, as we said. And if it's not good, great, you avoided spending time and resources on porting. And you can also create something creative for supporting next release. Huge update, and also on consoles. Steam deal, and also on consoles. So it's possible to do that. We're just talking about that the most effective way for releasing the game. Doing it at the same time as soon as you confident in that. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you. So no point in porting small games to PlayStation.
I mean, there is, yeah, please.
Well, the only situation I see, like, if you just get a rev share with some porting studio and not like commit resources to it, and just have them do it, you know, for portfolio or
yeah,
whatever.
It's not your risks only. So yeah, obviously it works.
Most of the time, it's better to move on to the next project and make that better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. A lot of great questions. So give a round of applause for Alex and Artem.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.